The interstellar market was alive with noise, neon lights flickering across the towering steel structures, and the aroma of alien spices filling the air. Merchants called out in dozens of languages, some human, some not, selling gadgets, weapons, exotic foods, and trinkets from distant worlds. Ships hovered overhead, docking and undocking with a constant hum that echoed through the streets. In the midst of this chaos, a tiny wolf girl, no taller than a child, pressed herself against a cold, dark wall. Her gray fur bristled, ears flat against her head, and golden eyes darted nervously from shadow to shadow. She clutched a small satchel to her chest, her tiny paws trembling. Every so often she let out a soft whimper, hoping no one would notice her. The market was dangerous. Not because it was crowded crowds she could handle, but because some of those watching weren't friendly. Figures in black cloaks moved smoothly between the stalls, scanning the crowd with a predator's attention. The wolf girl froze when one of them paused nearby. Scanning the alley. From the other side of the market, a veteran observed the scene. His armor was scratched and worn, his cybernetic arm gleaming under the neon lights. He had fought in wars that spanned solar systems, seen entire planets burn, and survived creatures no ordinary human could imagine. Yet, something about the tiny figure in the shadows caught his attention. Not her size, not her species, but the fear in her eyes. The veteran moved quietly, weaving through the crowd. His boots made no sound on the metallic floor, and his eyes never left the wolf girl. He had seen fear before, and he knew when it needed protection. The shadowy figures were closing in. They moved deliberately, their steps quiet, but their intent obvious. They were not looking for merchandise or information, they were looking for her. And they would not hesitate to harm her to get what they wanted. The veteran ducked into the alley beside the wolf girl. She stiffened, ears flattening even further. He knelt slightly, lowering himself to her level, speaking softly in a language she could understand. "Hey," he said gently. "You're safe. For now. Come with me." The wolf girl hesitated, sniffing the air, ears twitching. The hunters had passed the entrance of the alley, but she could still sense danger. She took a small step toward the veteran. He smiled faintly, careful not to show fear. "Good, just a little further. Trust me." The wolf girl scurried into his shadow. Her tiny claws clicked softly on the metal floor. The veteran scanned the alley again. The hunters were moving faster now. They had realized she had slipped away. The veteran didn't wait. He grabbed a nearby hover crate and placed it over the small wolf girl, shielding her. "Hang on," he whispered. The hunters stopped at the alley entrance, peering in. Their cloaks fluttered as they adjusted their stance. "She can't have gone far," one of them hissed in a harsh, clipped language. The veteran's hand hovered over his blaster. He didn't want to fight, not here, not in a crowded market. But he would if he had to. His eyes met the hunters for a fraction of a second, and he saw the recognition flash in them. They knew he had survived wars before. That was enough to make them hesitate. While they paused, the veteran made his move. He scooped the wolf girl into his arms and dashed through the narrow alleys, taking turns that only someone familiar with the market could know. The wolf girl clung to him, eyes wide, ears flat, but slowly relaxing as he whispered assurances. They reached a small vendor booth at the far end of the market. The old alien behind the counter looked up, surprised. The veteran placed a handful of credits on the counter. "Safe passage," he said simply. "Keep her until nightfall." The vendor hesitated, but then nodded. The veteran handed over the wolf girl carefully. She looked back at him, eyes shining with a mixture of fear and hope. The hunters arrived moments later, scanning the area, but the wolf girl was already hidden. The veteran blended into the crowd, moving with calm purpose, keeping his eyes on the market exit. He didn't know who she was or where she came from. But he knew one thing: she was innocent, and she needed help. That was enough. As night fell, The market lights cast long shadows across the streets. The veteran returned to a quiet corner to catch his breath. He checked the combs on his wrist, nothing yet from her family. The wolf girl's species might be small, but she wasn't alone. Somewhere out there, her family would be searching, and he hoped he had bought them enough time that the market was quieter now, but danger never slept. The veteran's eyes swept the area, scanning for any sign of the hunters. They were clever, persistent, and ruthless. But he had survived far worse. And he wasn't about to let a small creature like her fall into their hands. Back in the vendor's booth, the wolf girl curled up on a soft mat, eyes half closed, listening to the sounds of the bustling market beyond. She didn't understand the veteran's language, but she felt the safety he provided. For the first time in what felt like days, she allowed herself to rest. The veteran stayed in the shadows, watching, waiting. The night was only beginning, and with it came new challenges. But he was ready. He had faced death countless times in his life. Protecting this small, stranded wolf girl was just another mission, one that mattered far more than any battle he had fought before. Suddenly, his device buzzed. A faint, static-laced message filtered through, just a whisper. She. Not alone. They know. The veteran's brow furrowed. Someone else was after her. Not just the hunters from earlier. Someone bigger, smarter, and faster. He gripped his blaster tightly. This was no longer just about hiding her. It was about survival, his and hers. The night had just begun, and the hunter was not yet satisfied. The wolf girl stirred, sensing the tension. She peeked out from her hiding place, her golden eyes meeting the veteran's. In that silent exchange, a bond formed, a promise that he would not let anything happen to her. No matter the cost. The shadows in the market lengthened, flickering under neon lights. Somewhere out there, someone was watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The veteran tightened his grip on his cybernetic arm, ready for whatever came next. He had survived wars. He had faced death countless times. But tonight, survival meant protecting a small, stranded wolf girl in a world that didn't care if she lived or died, and he was determined she would live. The night was full of unknowns. The market's chaos now seemed tame compared to what lay ahead. But the veteran didn't flinch. He had a mission, a purpose, and a new responsibility he hadn't asked for, but one he would not abandon. The tiny wolf girl yawned, curling her small body against the soft mat. She felt safe for now. And for the veteran, that was enough. A flicker of movement in the shadows caught his eye. A figure in a long dark cloak paused at the alley entrance, scanning, listening. The veteran ducked lower, blending with the darkness, his senses alert. Whoever it was, they were patient, waiting for a mistake. But he didn't make mistakes. The wolf girl's breathing grew steady. Her small paws tucked beneath her. For now she was safe. But the veteran knew that safety was temporary. The hunters would not give up. Someone powerful was already aware of her presence, and they would stop at nothing. He adjusted his position, making sure he could respond instantly. The night was dark, but his eyes were sharper. His ears tuned to every sound. Every shadow, every movement mattered. And he would be ready, because a veteran never backs down, never leaves someone in danger. And tonight, he had a new mission, one that would test everything he thought he knew about courage, compassion, and humanity itself. The market's lights flickered. Somewhere, a distant ship roared through the sky, a reminder that the galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of unknown threats. But here, in this small alley, the veteran and the tiny wolf girl shared a fragile moment of peace. For now and tomorrow. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, and the next step in a journey that would change both of their lives forever. The market had quieted under the blanket of night, but the veteran knew calm was deceptive. Danger lurked in every shadow, every alleyway. The small Wolf girl crouched on the soft mat inside the vendor's booth, her golden eyes wide and alert. She was not asleep, not fully. Her tiny body twitched slightly as if ready to run, her ears rotating at every sound. The veteran watched her carefully, calculating the next move. "Time to go," he whispered, glancing toward the alley where the hunters had disappeared. His cybernetic arm adjusted, sensors glowing faintly, scanning for movement. The Wolf girl tilted her head, understanding none of his words, yet sensing his intent. He extended a hand slowly, palm open. Hesitant but trusting, she stepped forward. The veteran lifted her carefully, cradling her against his chest. She pressed herself close, her tiny paws clinging to his armor. Every instinct in his body told him they were being watched. Somewhere in the dark, eyes were tracking them. The veteran moved through a hidden passage behind the market, bypassing the main streets entirely. The hum of distant hovercrafts and chatter of late-night merchants faded behind them. The streets above were quiet, eerily quiet for a city that never truly slept. Neon lights cast strange shadows across the walls, painting the alleyways with shifting colors. The Wolf girl's ears twitched nervously, and she let out a low whine. The veteran spoke softly, "Don't worry. I've got you." The Wolf girl sniffed his neck, recognizing the scent of calm authority, something she hadn't encountered in days or perhaps ever. He wasn't like the other humans, the ones who shouted or waved weapons. He moved with certainty, and that certainty gave her hope. A sudden noise made both of them freeze. A metallic clink echoed from a side alley. The veteran's hand went instinctively to his blaster. Shadowed figures moved with practiced stealth, sliding between the stalls and walls. The hunters had not given up. He glanced at the Wolf girl. Her ears were flat, tail low. She was ready to bolt, but he held her gently, whispering reassurances. They had to move fast. He carried her to a small hovercraft docked discreetly behind a food vendor. It was compact, barely large enough for one person, but it would suffice. The veteran lifted the Wolf girl into the pilot's seat, securing her safely. She sat on the cushion, legs dangling, eyes wide as she explored the controls with tiny hands. "Don't touch anything," he warned with a faint smile. "I mean it." She gave a small nod, understanding the tone, if not the words. It was a silent agreement. They would work together. The veteran powered the hovercraft, and the engines hummed softly, a quiet roar in the still night. He lifted off the ground, gliding through the empty streets, taking narrow passages and unexpected turns. The hunters had lost their trail for now, but he knew it was only a matter of time before they picked it up again. As they moved, a bond began to form. Words were few, but gestures spoke volumes. The Wolf girl leaned against him during tight turns, her small body seeking reassurance. The veteran glanced down at her, noting her frailty and strength intertwined small. Yes, but fierce in her own way. He reflected silently on his own past. He had been a soldier, a veteran of countless interstellar wars. He had seen destruction, betrayal, and the darkest corners of the galaxy. Yet, in all his experiences, protecting this tiny Wolf girl felt different, more important, more personal. She was innocent, and that mattered. That alone made him willing to risk everything. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. They navigated through the neon maze of the city, avoiding patrol drones and security scanners. Each obstacle was met with careful planning, clever improvisation, and sometimes sheer luck. The veteran used every skill he had learned over decades: stealth, deception, and calculated risk-taking. The Wolf girl began to relax, showing small signs of curiosity. She poked at the buttons on the console with tiny fingers, letting out soft growls of frustration when nothing happened. The veteran laughed quietly, a rare sound. "I told you not to touch anything," he murmured. She tilted her head and whimpered, as if apologizing, her golden eyes shining. Suddenly, the hovercraft's communication device buzzed. The veteran's hand froze over the controls. Static hissed through the speaker, and a faint holographic image flickered into view. It was her. Well, not fully. The image was distorted, fragments of light forming shapes, a voice breaking through in whispers. They are coming. Faster than you think. The Wolf girl's ears twitched violently. She recognized the voice, or at least the tone. Her small hands reached out toward the flickering light. The veteran watched carefully. Whoever had sent the message was warning them, not yet revealing themselves fully. He adjusted the comms, trying to stabilize the image. More static, more fragmented glimpses of alien technology. Starships hovering in space. The Wolf girl's family was out there, searching. But the message was clear. Danger was imminent. The veteran's mind raced. They needed a safe place to hide until her family arrived. A place away from the hunters, away from prying eyes. He accessed his internal map, scanning for an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Long forgotten but secure. Hold tight, he instructed the Wolf girl. The hovercraft lifted higher, skimming rooftops and moving through narrow gaps between buildings. The neon glow reflected off his armor, highlighting the wear and scars of his years. He was a soldier, a protector, a veteran. And he would not fail. The chase intensified. Drones appeared suddenly, scanning the skies, their sensors locking onto the hovercraft's heat signature. The veteran used every trick he knew: diversion, sudden drops, and sharp turns to shake them off. The Wolf girl clung to him, no longer afraid, trusting in his skill and judgment. Hours of movement brought them finally to the warehouse. It was dark, abandoned, and silent. The veteran guided the hovercraft inside, shutting down the engines. The echo of the city faded, leaving only the quiet hum of distant energy lines. The Wolf girl stepped out cautiously, sniffing the air. For the first time, she relaxed fully. She ran in small circles, exploring the space, her tail swishing with cautious joy. The veteran watched her, a faint smile on his lips. "You're safe here." "For now," he said. They settled into the warehouse. The veteran scavenged old supplies, setting up a small area for the Wolf girl to rest. She watched him carefully, her golden eyes filled with trust and curiosity. She was small, yes, but remarkably clever. In minutes, she had found hidden compartments, small nooks, places that could serve as escape routes if necessary. The veteran nodded, impressed. "Clever," he muttered. "You might survive this galaxy better than most." Night passed slowly. The Wolf girl curled up beside a soft mat, listening to the veteran's quiet movements. She had grown attached, though she would not admit it. He was different from others, strong, patient, protective. He had risked his safety for her without hesitation. In the middle of the night, the holographic device buzzed again. This time the image was clearer. A starship, sleek and silver, appeared hovering in orbit above the city. The Wolf girl's family. The message was brief but urgent. "Wait. Do not leave. Until we arrive." The veteran nodded. "I understand," he said quietly, though no one could hear him but the Wolf girl. The Wolf girl rested her head on his shoulder. No words were spoken. No explanations needed. A bond had formed, a silent promise that he would protect her until her family came. Outside, shadows shifted. The hunters were still out there, persistent and patient. Someone or something else was also aware of her presence. The night had brought temporary peace, but the veteran knew it would not last. He tightened his grip on his blaster and checked the perimeter one last time. Whatever came next, he was ready. He had survived wars, betrayals, and death. Protecting this tiny, stranded Wolf girl was just another mission, but one that mattered more than any he had ever undertaken. And as dawn approached, the first rays of light glinting off the neon skyline, both of them knew one thing: survival meant trust, intelligence, and courage. And tonight, they had all three, but the galaxy was vast, and the dangers were far from over. The first light of dawn crept across the neon city, casting long, fractured shadows that flickered against the metal walls of the abandoned warehouse. The veteran stood silently near the entrance, scanning the horizon. The wolf girl had curled herself into a small protective ball atop a soft mat. Her golden eyes alert despite her fatigue. The night had been long, filled with the quiet hum of the hovercraft, whispered reassurances, and tense moments of near discovery. But now, the final act of this mission was approaching, the arrival of the wolf girl's family. The veteran's cybernetic arm adjusted slightly as he monitored the skies. Then, in the distance, a faint glimmer caught his attention. A sleek starship descending from orbit, its lights cutting through the early morning haze. He knew instantly it was them. Her family had found her, but peace never comes easily in this galaxy. Just as the starship hovered above, a warning flickered across his sensors. Multiple unidentified crafts were approaching at high speed, closing in on the warehouse. The hunters weren't alone. Someone or something bigger, more dangerous, had caught wind of her presence. The veteran's jaw tightened. "They're not leaving without a fight," he muttered. He lifted the wolf girl into his arms, her small body pressed against his chest. She clung to him tightly, sensing his determination. Her ears twitched as if ready to fight or flee, her tail flicking in anxious anticipation. The approaching crafts moved with frightening precision. The veteran recognized their patterns. Elite mercenaries, fast and relentless, likely hired by some unknown faction. They would stop at nothing to capture the wolf girl before her family could reach her. "Stay close," he whispered. "We're not done yet." He activated the warehouse's hidden defenses, scrapyard metal barriers sliding into place, energy sensors scanning for movement. Then, with practiced ease, he prepared to lead the small wolf girl through a back exit toward a narrow tunnel that would bring them closer to the starship's landing zone. The pursuers landed nearby, sleek hovercrafts cutting through the air with deadly precision. Lasers streaked across the sky as the veteran moved, ducking low, his reflexes honed from decades of combat. The wolf girl watched him with wide eyes, a mixture of fear and awe. He wasn't just a protector, he was a force of nature. Human ingenuity at its finest, using clever misdirection. He led the pursuers into a maze of abandoned buildings, triggering old security measures to slow them down. Sparks flew as the mercenaries crashed into automated barricades, their frustration evident. Yet the veteran knew this was only temporary. They were skilled, and they would recover. The wolf girl's family, still hovering in orbit, began to descend toward the city. The veteran adjusted his route, leading her through side streets and over rooftops. Each step calculated to maximize distance from the hunters and align with the family's landing trajectory. Finally, they reached a clearing just outside the city, a location that allowed the veteran to see the starship's landing pads. The wolf girl's ears perked up at the sight of her family waiting, their figures illuminated by the ship's bright lights. She squirmed in his arms, tiny paws patting his chest. "Almost there," he whispered. "Just a little more." The hunters closed in rapidly, their hovercraft skimming the ground, weapons primed. The veteran made a split-second decision. He veered sharply into a narrow canyon, forcing the pursuers to follow. The terrain worked in his favor. Tight corners, uneven surfaces, and debris slowed their approach. He pushed his hovercraft to its limits, using every trick he knew. Finally, the starship opened its rear ramp. Members of the wolf girl's family, tall, sleek, and unmistakably alien, waited with open arms. One of them extended a hand toward her. The wolf girl wriggled free from the veteran's grasp, leaping into her family's embrace. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The hunters hesitated at the edge of the clearing, unsure whether to continue. And then, as if sensing the veteran's resolve, they retreated, their orders unclear, unwilling to face the combined might of human cunning and alien technology. The veteran exhaled slowly, allowing himself a rare moment of relief. He had completed the mission. He had protected the Wolf Girl. He had survived. The Wolf Girl's family turned to him, their expressions unreadable to human eyes, but the gratitude was evident. One of them stepped forward, placing a delicate hand on his shoulder. A soft melodic voice emanated from the ship's communicator. "Thank you, human. You have shown bravery, wisdom, and compassion. You are remarkable." The veteran nodded quietly, unused to praise. He glanced at the Wolf Girl, who waved a tiny paw at him before returning to her family. She looked back over her shoulder, eyes shining, and whispered a soft, almost human-like, "Thank you." It was the moment the veteran had fought for. Silent, fleeting, yet unforgettable, the starship began its ascent, carrying the Wolf Girl safely away from danger. The veteran watched until it disappeared into the brightening sky. Then he turned back toward the city, his mind already considering the next steps, the next missions. The galaxy was vast, full of threats, mysteries, and opportunities for those willing to act. A faint beep from his device drew his attention. Another message, encrypted and urgent, flickered onto the display. "Human, your actions have been noted. A greater threat approaches. Prepare." The veteran's brow furrowed. The hunt for the tiny Wolf Girl had ended, but a larger journey was about to begin. He tightened the strap on his armor and glanced toward the horizon, where the city's neon lights still shimmered, reflecting the endless possibilities of the universe. He had saved one life today. Tomorrow he might save countless more. And as he walked away from the empty clearing, the veteran knew one truth: courage, intelligence, and compassion, the very essence of humanity, were forces that could change the course of destiny, even in a galaxy filled with stars, shadows, and the unknown. For now he had fulfilled his mission. But the universe had more challenges waiting. And the veteran was ready. The Wolf Girl's tiny paw prints remained etched in his memory, a reminder of innocence saved, of trust earned, and of the human spirit's enduring power to protect and inspire.